Hello, and welcome to Live Stream Monday. So it's a little bit after 7 on Monday. It is January 21st, 2019. And today, I am going to basically talk about what to do when you are pretty much brand new. And so I entitled this, I Knew What's Next, because I see this a lot in so many different groups. Not so much this group, but I am in a lot of different kinds of witchy groups, and there are all kinds of questions from what books should I read to what should I focus on, and what type of witch am I? Am I a gray witch, a purple witch, a celestial witch, a green witch, a crystal witch, a indigo child? Like there's so many things that come up. So I kind of wanted to come on and talk about what to do when you're new, because like you, if you're watching this and you're a new person, sorry, I have an itch. We all come from this place where it's a little bit overwhelming. We have so many, there are so many books to choose from. There are so many ways your craft can go. Are you interested in crystals or herbs? And everybody's kind of telling you what you could do, like what you should do, and do magic, wait, don't do magic. Do tarot, wait, don't do tarot. There's so many different things that kind of inundate the person who is new. So I want to just kind of talk about what I like to tell people, how I like to coach people, and how I like to mentor people when they're new. Just some suggestions. And then I also have a recommended reading list that I'm going to post. So the first thing, and if you might have actually taken this self-paced course that I created a while ago. The first thing I want to talk about are 4 skills, and I feel like I've talked about it all the time, but I am not going to stop talking about it because they create the foundation of any spiritual practice, whether it's Wiccan or fairy or druid, or just a spiritual path. If you don't really identify with any specific path, there are 4 skills to build a great foundation. Now, hi Julie. So the first skill that I want to talk about, and I have other things to talk about, it's not just going to be these 4 skills. So if you heard me talk about this before, I promise there is more. It's not just this. But I believe so strongly in this. And these 4 skills are really great to come back to if you feel like the need to reconnect, if you've been away from your craft for a while. It's really good. Hi, Lisa. I miss you. It's a great foundation. So the first skill is visualization. So visualization basically is painting a picture in your mind. It's what we do when we daydream or when we fantasize about something. But on the spiritual path, we can visualize our goals. We can visualize what we want to do. We can visualize, the outcome of a spell. We can visualize us getting a new job. We can visualize us having that hard conversation that we know we need to have. Hi, Caroline. It's been a while. It's good to see you. We can visualize all of these things that help us in so many ways. So that's one of the reasons why visualization is so important, is because when we raise energy, we visualize, because it helps us it helps the energy, it flavors the energy with our intent in a different way. So we use it in spell work. We use it when we do ritual magic. We can use it just as part of the law of attraction and manifestation, which I'm going to talk about next week. So we use visualization and guided meditation as well, which is the most common form of meditation, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But visualization is such a great tool. You can do a ritual all in your mind. I have full on done a ritual to banish a migraine headache, actually. Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. I feel like we have a full house. That makes me so excited. But I've done a ritual in my head to take away a terrible headache, and it actually worked. So that visualization skill is very, very, it's very, very important. And if you are not good at visualization, that's okay, because you just need to practice. I was terrible at visualization. I could meditate pretty decently when I first started, but I could not visualize for shit. Like, not even kidding. I could not visualize at all. So it just takes a lot of practice. And it really just takes a lot of practice and creativity to get yourself in that visualization mode. So that's the first skill. The second skill is meditation. There are tons of different ways to meditate, and meditation helps us in a lot of different ways. It allows us to commune with deities, with spirit guides. We can have a moment of silent meditation. We can open ourselves up and ask ourselves questions. We can go ahead and we can ask our goddesses for their experiences or their input on something, and then journal afterwards. There's movement meditation where you can do labyrinths. If you've ever walked a labyrinth, you can get into a meditative state just by vacuuming or mowing the lawn. There's all kinds, or like gestures or dancing or just walking. If you're in a safe space, you can harness some of these different kinds of movements to help get you in a meditative state. The most important part is that it's repetitive and that it's easy enough for you to kind of focus, to be able to focus inward. So you don't want to be trying to do a moving meditation on a hill full of rocks where you have to make sure you put your feet in specific ways, because your brain will be on your feet and not inward. Hi, B. So there are a couple different ways to meditate. I talked briefly about movement meditation, silent, like connection meditation. You've got guided meditation, which is visualization meditation, which is really super popular. If you're looking for some resources for this, of course, YouTube is one. I have an app that I love called Insight Timer. It's a timer which allows you to kind of track your silent meditations, but it also has a lot of cool guided meditations that are free that you can choose from. You can pay for, you can upgrade and pay for it, but there are guided meditations. There are groups that you can join to kind of help you keep accountable. Hi, Liz. They keep you accountable for your meditation. So there are tons of different kinds of meditation. You can meditate by listening to chants or chanting yourself. There's trance meditation with drumming. There are so many different kinds of ways to meditate to get into that headspace. And that really helps you in a lot of ways. It helps you connect with deity. It helps you relax. It helps you turn inward. It helps you get into a ritual mindset. So this skill will also take you a long way. So we talked about visualization, meditation. The third one I want to talk about is contemplation. Now, contemplation is basically thinking about something. That's it, thinking about it. And we, as society right now, it's so much easier to throw our question up on a Facebook page. And feel free to do that on the Rising Fire Tribe, just saying. But I see all of these questions like, I saw a purple bird this morning. What does that mean? Or I did this, or this is what my candle wax looks like. I don't know what it means. What do you think it means? So it's all about, instead of going outward, looking inward for answers. So you have all the answers inside of you. And I know I kind of say that a lot, but you really do. It's just allowing the flow to happen and trusting yourself. So when you have a question like, what does this bird mean? Or what does this mean? Or I saw this symbol in a meditation, instead of asking other people who they're not you. So they don't have the same experiences. They don't have like that reference library. Like, to you, a bird, if you see a bird in a specific way and you notice it, your experience with birds is going to be different than Jane Smith over there's experience with birds. She's afraid of birds, so she might think that something terrible is going to happen. But you have a different experience with birds. So only you, when we have symbols and when we have these experiences, they are specific and special to us. We are the ones having the experience. And there's a reason for that. The experience did not happen to Jane over there. It's happening to you. So it's important that you first look inside. I mean, once you think about it, you can always ask and see, If you feel like you need some validation, go ahead and do that. However, you don't have to do that. Like, you literally have all of these answers. And it's not just like, oh, I saw a sign. It's like, I am thinking about applying for a job. Instead of asking everybody, should I apply for this job? I don't know. Like, really take some time and think about it, like, settle into yourself. Just take some deep breaths. Maybe have a piece of paper. I know I'm talking really fast. I'm sorry. I get very excited. I want to get very excited about things. I just start talking very quickly. So I'm going to try to slow down and not get out of breath. Okay. So, so make sure that you realize that you have all of this inside of you. You can ask yourself, you can ask, you can journal, just write on any piece of paper, should I apply for this job, or do I need another job, or what should I do to get a different job? And just journal, just answer that question, just write whatever comes to your mind. And that's a way of contemplation. You can sit in like contemplation meditation and do the same thing. Sit and think and, kind of work through it yourself. This is also good, like for self-coaching. If you're like trying to figure something out, like, I don't know, I'm not like, I should just stay at my job. If you're having that feeling, I should just stay at my job, because, that's the best job for me right now. It's like, why do you, you can question yourself when you are doing contemplation. Why is that the best job for me right now? Why do why is that the best job for me? Well, I don't think any other job is going to want me. Well, why don't you think that any job is going to want you? Well, it's because my skills aren't very transferable. Well, what makes you think that your skills aren't transferable? All skills are transferable. So you can kind of have a conversation with yourself, and it will, as you're like untangling these things, you can get the answers that you really need to move forward in to live the life that you want to live, to reach your goals, to like, once you find the root of something, it allows you to kind of bloom, right? So contemplation is really awesome in that way. Visualization, meditation, contemplation. The fourth skill is observation. So observation is kind of a misnomer. Like, when we think about observing something, we think about seeing something. Like, oh, I observed a bird flying by. Evidently, I'm very bird focused today. But that's not the same. So if you're seeing something, that's different from observing. Seeing is passive. Observing is active. So when I talk about observation, there are two main ways that I like to talk about it, as it will kind of apply to your paths. The first one is observing what is going on outside at all times. I mean, I don't mean like every time you step out the door, you must look like a detective outside your door, but keep an eye on the trees. What birds are around? Are you hearing birds? Are the birds going away? What does your wildlife look like? Do you see like baby deer? What do the trees look like? Are there leaves on the trees? Are there buds on the trees? What color are the leaves? And when we observe our outside, especially nature, our natural surroundings, it allows us to more easily and more deeply connect with those cycles of the earth. So just by observing it, you're able to see what's going on, and you'll be able to feel the energies of the shifts of the seasons. Is the light a little bit different? Is it more of a yellow light than a blue light? So I don't know if you've ever noticed the different colors of the lights, but I'm sorry, I have to scroll down. But you can tell the difference. The hue of the light is different in the summer than it is the winter. And once you start doing that, like, outward observation, it will allow you to connect more deeply and more easily to the cycles of the earth. Likewise, I want to talk about observing your body. I mean, and not just like, hey, I'm looking at my body, like, this is what my hands look like now, but your feelings in your body. So when we have feelings, a lot of times we feel it in different parts of your body. And this is one thing that I talk about when we talk about intuition versus anxiety. How anxiety shows up in your body, where you feel it in your body, is usually different than where you feel intuition in your body. And that's a good way to be able to figure out the difference between intuition and anxiety. But first, before you get to that point, you need to practice feeling into your body. Like, how do you feel right now? Where you're sitting right now. Think about how you're sitting right now and how you're feeling. Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling energized? Are you feeling hungry? Are you feeling like your body hurts? So just take 1 second and just kind of check in with your body. Do you feel bloated? Do you feel skinny? Do you feel warm? Do you feel cold? And when we're checking in with our body, that's going to allow us to move forward in so many ways. So one thing that I really like to talk about, okay, so one exercise, if you are not used to feeling into your body, if you're not used to observing what's going on, one exercise I like to suggest is turning on a cold tap, putting your hands under the water as if you're washing them. And then I want you to move your perception from whatever you're thinking about into feeling the way the water is touching your skin. And it shifts the experience. So it's not just like you have water, going on your hands, but when you are paying attention to the way the water is touching your hands and the way it feels as it flows over your hands, it's a completely different experience. And that's one easy way that you can get used to shifting your perception. So like right now, I'm hungry, but I just put something in my stomach. Honestly, I had a spoonful of peanut butter before we came on, so my stomach wouldn't growl. And I can feel it in there, like I feel like that's happening. So the more you deepen into your body, the more you kind of observe what's going on, the easier that it comes. So why is that important? Well, that's important because it will allow us to relax our body. Like, what parts of your body are tense right now? Like, for me, it's my shoulders. So like, if I just check in with my body and I'm like, okay, like you need to relax your legs, which I'm doing right now. You relax your back because it kind of hurts. Take a couple deep breaths and feel your tension. Feel where that tension is and try to relax it. So this exercise is good when you are trying to meditate and you want to get into a relaxed, physical feeling. You need to feel comfortable. You need to feel relaxed. And sometimes even when we're sitting down and we're ready to meditate, we're holding this tension that we don't know that we're holding. So being able to check into your body and observe where that tension is and release it, it's going to make for a better meditative experience because your energy isn't going to be all locked up in your shoulders. You'll be able to kind of make it flow. Also, another good way that this is actually used, like in the witchy path, is when you're sensing energy, whether you're raising energy from the earth, or you're raising energy in a circle, or you are doing healing work, or, you are charging something. It allows you to kind of feel what that energy is going to feel like to you. So, for example, when I teach people to sense energy, for some people, sensing an energy might feel buzzy on their hands, on their palms. And for some people, it might feel warm. And for some people, it might feel cold because it's different for everybody. We all have that sensory input of energy in different ways. So if you realize how you normally feel, if you're used to, I guess, paying attention to the feelings on your palms of your hand, when you do an exercise like that to sense energy or to project energy, you'll be able to kind of pay attention to what that feels like so that you'll be able to know in the future, like, oh, charging something, when I'm projecting energy, it feels like this. And when I'm receiving energy, it feels like this. And good energy is warm and cold energy is hot, or vice versa, whatever it is, because it's different, again, for everybody. But it's hard for you to be able to tell how you are physically feeling that energy if you are not able to feel into your body and observe what that feels like. Okay, so those are the 4. Wow, it took me 20 minutes. Okay, those are the 4 main skills: visualization, meditation, contemplation, observation. There is another skill that I want to bring up, but I don't feel like it really goes with those, but I do want to talk about intuition. That is very important, that you work on your intuition. And that doesn't just mean like cards or whatever. It means, learning to trust your gut. Like I said earlier about anxiety versus intuition, working on that. So that is another skill that you might want to focus on. Okay. So those are the skills that I implore newbies, I guess we call them baby witches, which is the thing now, to really focus on, because you use visualization and observation in casting circle. You use observation and probably contemplation in circle as well. So they really transfer. But besides those skills, read all the books that you can. And when I say read all the books that you can, I do have a recommended reading list that I am going to share right now because I am relatively prepared today. So I do have a recommended reading list. Hopefully that will pop up as a link. But read not only the books that people say are awesome, but read some of the books, not all of them, but read some of the books that people don't care for. Like a lot of people don't care for Silver Ravenwolf and haven't since the 90s. I did buy all of her books in the 90s, even though people said that they were terrible, because I wanted to see what was so terrible about them. And what it really did was it helped me build my skill of discernment, which I like to also call the bullshit meter. So I was able to, by not just reading everything that everybody says is great and the truth and amazing, by reading other things that most people didn't really care for, I was able to be like, oh, I do like that part, but I disagree with that. I do like that part, but I disagree with that. So it allowed me to, I guess, understand and learn about myself, what I do believe and what I don't believe. And also, I learned that if people hate reading, if you hate reading, you probably still can read Silver Ravenwolf. If Cunningham annoys you and is too hard for you to read, or if you have a learning disability and reading is hard for you, Silver Ravenwolf writes at a, like, I don't want to, like a younger reading level, I guess. It's just it's just easier to read and digest, I think, than than Cunningham. So I learned that as well, which allowed me to be a better mentor, so that I could tailor my recommendations when I'm doing like mentoring sessions and I am giving like tailored recommendations. If somebody hates to read, then I know like Silver Raven will be a good a good series to read. In addition to that, like, it's always good to have a discussion afterwards, because she's a little polarizing. All right, so I want to quickly talk about Wicca versus non-Wicca. There are a lot of people who are like, I'm not Wiccan. All the books are about Wicca, and I'm not Wiccan. I'm not reading these Wiccan books. So really quickly, I do want to talk about Wicca versus non-Wicca. Like, swear, like less than a minute. A lot of people think Wiccans abide by the Wiccan Rede, and they don't do any like bad magic, and it's all white. It's like all white light and healing, and that's what Wiccans are, fluffy snowflake bunnies, whatever the term of the decade is. But in reality, the Wiccan Rede, and it harm none, do as ye will, is not a law. It is advice, and there are tons of Wiccans that do what needs to be done, whether that is binding or banishing or like whatever needs to be done. It's just advice. So that's part of what makes up Wicca. The Wiccan ritual outline is part of what makes Wicca Wicca. We live the year, that's 8 Sabbats, and the moon rituals also makes Wicca Wicca, as well as a polar deity, a goddess and a god, feeling like they're equal, honoring them equally. That also is part of what makes Wicca Wicca, along with the hierarchy and stuff. And I do also have a blog post about that too. I'll see if I can't find that, and I'll post that. I'll post that later, because I do have like a what is this and what is that. But so people are like, well, that's not my jam. I'm more into nature. Well, also and the cool thing is like, that's what Wicca is. So there are Wiccans who are super into nature, and there are Wiccans that are super into angels, and they're like, it's not just like all healing and love and all Wiccans are the same. But the cool thing is that most of what neo-paganism is now these days developed from what Wicca is. So when we go to a public ritual and they're casting circle and they're calling quarters and they're, evoking the deities, and they have, and you're like, okay, well, this is familiar. That's because most of that, if it's not exactly the same, it's taken from the Wiccan ritual outline. So most pagan groups, they're like birthed from Wicca. So even if you're not Wiccan, a book about Wicca will probably have some good tidbits for you, even if you're like, that's not for me. So a lot of people, I always recommend Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner. But the thing is, most books about Wicca, especially the ones that were written in the 90s, the 90s and the 2000s, when they talk about Wicca, it's a lot of times they're talking about eclectic paganism. So because at the time, like, there was a real big confusion, like, is neo-Wicca the same thing as eclectic paganism? And it went all around the community for a while until, some people really kind of started understanding what actual Wicca is. So a lot of those books that talk about like Wicca or have Wicca in their title really it would be really just fine for an eclectic pagan. So there's that. The fourth thing I want to talk about is divination. So my suggestion to you is to buy a tarot deck or buy an oracle deck. The reason why I suggest this is because this is a tool that will take you pretty far. You can use it in hi Katie, you can use a tarot deck in a multitude of ways. You can use it in workings, you can use it to represent people, you can use it as affirmations. You can use it in spell work. You can use it as meditation to meditate on a concept or a symbol. So it really can be used in a lot of different ways. And for like $20, it's pretty good. So when you do get your tarot deck, especially if it's a tarot deck, this is my suggestion. When you get your first tarot deck and you're like, okay, well, there's 78 freaking cards. Like, I'm supposed to memorize all of these cards and know all of the symbolism. And, it is a little overwhelming. So my suggestion to you is, first of all, you probably have some sort of knowledge or connection with the elements. Water is emotions, and fire is transformation, and earth is grounding and prosperity. You probably have those kind of concepts a little bit in your mind already, because they're kind of like probably one of the first things that we all learn. So my suggestion to you, you get your tarot deck. You learn what suit correlates to what element. Cups to water, wands to fire, swords to air, and coins or pentacles to earth. That's like the Rider-Waite kind of style. That's the correlations of the elements and the suits. So my suggestion to you, and this is something that I do with my new tarot decks, is I will lay them all out in order. So I will lay all of the swords out, and then the next one I will lay all of the wands out, and I will lay all of the coins out, and also end up laying all the major arcana out. Now, you don't need to do all of this in one sitting. You might have a giant kitchen table and be perfect, and you might have tons of time. But if not, you can focus on one suit at a time. So lay out that suit, the ace to the king, and look at it. And then start at the very beginning and create a story. Just like write a story in your mind. Like, there's a cup and this is what happens. And then this cup goes to this person and these two people seem really super happy. And then this, just kind of write. I'm terrible at writing stories, but just kind of write a story, and you can say it out loud, which I suggest, or you can think it in your head. I don't feel it's not something that you need to write down, because it's not a product. This isn't about the product. Like, this is the story that I've written, because you could write another story tomorrow. It's the process of looking at the cards and seeing the symbolism and actually paying attention to what's happening in that card enough to write that story. So I wouldn't say just do it in like 2 minutes, but really like take a look at all of the cards and see how they can fit together in a story. You might have a hero, you might have a heroine, you might have, if there's like a butterfly in every one of your cards, maybe that is like the protagonist of your story. So just kind of create a story using those cards in that one suit. And then when you feel like it, you can move on to the next one. Again, this allows us to examine the cards, see what's going on, kind of intuitively feel out what we feel with those cards. And then once you've done that with all of the suits, then go on and look at the book and read the book, because you will have already kind of created a intuitive connection with the cards. So you didn't let like the book spoil like your intuition. So, and okay. All right, so another couple things that you can do with your tarot deck is pull a card every morning. Just write it, note it in the planner or your planner or on your calendar. If you have like a wall calendar, you can just write it on your calendar. You can write keywords or not. You can just write what cards you pulled if you want. And when we do things like this, we're able to identify patterns. Like, oh, I've drawn the Queen of Wands every week for the past 3 weeks. Like that means something. Let's figure that out. And so you can pull your card and you can look at the book, or you can use intuition, or a mixture of both, and just kind of feel into it for a second and just read it and maybe think about how it might affect your day. Like, oh, I got the Queen of Wands this morning. It says creative and passionate and causing transformation. Like, how am I going to cause transformation today? How am I going to exercise my creativity? So it can allow you to shape your day if you do it in the morning. If you pull your card at night, you can look at it, because I know we all have different weird like cycles, right? So if you want to pull it at night, you can look at it and see how does this illustrate how my day was? How does this I guess how did my day affect me in a way that is illustrated on this card? You can also play a game where you try to guess characteristics of a card. So you can have your cards face down in a deck and you're like, okay, and you can ask yourself, and this kind of helps you get in touch with like your inner voice, your inner intuition, your inner psychism. What is on this card that my hand is on? And you're like, okay, well, I know there's a tree on the card. So you pick it up and you see if there's a tree. And if there is a tree, then it goes in this pile. If there's no tree, then it goes in this pile. And you can like work on your like psychism, your psychic skills, and your intuition in that way. You can also use them to represent people in workings, because the court cards often represent people. But besides that, you might see a card that you intuitively feel like, oh, the Two of Cups, that's Jennifer. That's Jennifer to me. When I see that, I think of Jennifer. So if you want to represent Jennifer in a working, a spell, a ritual, whatever, you can, and Jennifer can't be with you, but you associate her with that card, you can use that card instead. Okay, so those are a couple of suggestions on how to stretch like the use of your oracle deck to help you engage a lot of those different witchy skills. Another thing I want to talk about is don't jump to feeling like you need to be a type of witch. This is something that I see like 10 times every day on my feed. What type of witch am I? Am I a green witch? Am I a crystal witch? Am I this witch? Am I that witch? This is not the time for you to be like, I'm a green witch, or I'm a this witch. You don't need a freaking label. You can just be a witch. Because most of us use all of these different things. I use herbs. I do kitchen witchery. I do crafts. I use crystals. I use candles. I use, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I call upon the ancestors sometimes. So like, what am I supposed to be? An ancestor, green, crystal, herb, blah, 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 candle, fire witch. You don't need to choose your label. I understand it's comfortable to have a label. Labeling ourselves allows us to find like-minded others, which allows us to establish relationships through like our commonalities. So I understand why labels are important to some people, and it's comfortable to have a label. And if you want to call yourself a green witch or a crystal witch or a sparkly unicorn flavored witch, I don't even know what that would taste like. But if you want to be any kind of like specific witch, you can call yourself whatever you want. But please realize that this is the best time for you to explore everything. It's time for you to figure out what you love the most. Do you love crystals? Do you love working with crystals? Do you love the vibes that it brings? Do you love making grits, or do you just like looking at them? That's fine too. Do you like working with herbs? Do you want to learn how to craft teas? Do you want to grow things from the earth? Do you want to stir up magic in the kitchen? And you can try all of these things. Like, this is the best time for you to do that, to try all of the things. So don't feel like, you know, like, I have to be a black witch or a white witch or a green witch or a purple witch or a gray witch. I don't, that doesn't make sense to me, but that's fine, because it doesn't have to, because it makes sense to somebody else. But feel free to explore everything. And then the last thing I really want to talk about is start practicing. If you're watching this right now and you've read a couple books, you're like, I'm kind of scared to start practicing. Don't be. Like, it's going to be fine. And it's going to be fine. The first time you cast a circle, you're going to feel super weird. When you are saying things out loud to an empty room, it's going to sound super weird. It's going to feel super weird. It's going to feel kind of uncomfortable. Like, the first couple rituals you're going to do most likely will be a little uncomfortable. They'll be a little weird. Hi, Karen. But start practicing, because the best time to start is now. Like, when are you going to start? Oh, when I have enough tools. Oh, when I have this, or oh, when I feel like that, or, you know, oh, when I get my robe. You can start right now. You can start today. So you can start with those skills I talked about, but really you can start planning what you're going to do for the next new moon. The new and full moons are every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. So you can be planning something. Full moon was what, Sunday, yesterday? You can start planning for the new moon. What am I going to do on the new moon? It's an introspective time. And it doesn't mean you have to do a huge ritual if that's not your jam, but you can align your actions with the intentions of the moon. You can be introspective. You could maybe pull out your tarot deck. You can do some journaling. You can write a new moon abundance check. You've got a lot of possibilities, and you have the internet to help you find some. And you've got this group, Rising Fire Tribe, that you can ask, like, hey, what are you doing for the, or what do you think I should do for the new moon? What are you doing? Like, how can I best harness these properties of the new moon in Cancer or whatever? And you will get answers, and you can go ahead and make those moves. But don't be afraid of starting, like, of doing ritual or doing a spell. You know, I think that of course you want to be really careful, but here's the thing that nobody really tells you. At some point, you're going to screw up. You're going to screw up a spell, and there will probably be some sort of backlash, but you're going to survive and you're going to learn from it. I once made myself sick for 3 days from a spell that I did. I once didn't eat for like a week. I couldn't keep anything down. That was a separate one, completely separate thing. But did I do that? Did I think that I was fine? Yeah, but you learn from your mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes. Better now than later. So start now. And that traditional year and a day period that we always hear about with traditional witchcraft and traditional Wicca, that is because when you start your year in a day, you're able to celebrate and practice all 8 of the Sabbats. You're able to experience the moon in all of its phases for a whole year. So you're able to get all of that practice in. So if you're celebrating every Sabbat and you're celebrating at least 1 moon a month, that is a lot of practice. That's what, 12 moons? That's like 20 rituals. So that's 20 rituals, which is a really good amount of experience for a beginner. It allows you to try different ritual outlines or different ritual techniques. It allows you to maybe see if you want to work with a group or by yourself. So it's a really great time to explore, but you have to really kind of make sure that you are exploring, that you are growing, and there's no growth in the comfort zone. So obviously be careful. Always safety first. Never summon something that you can't put back. There are caveats, but if you're going to cast a circle and call some quarters and celebrate Imulk, if you're going to ask Bridget to be present, I'm pretty sure you're not going to get a snarling 9-foot demon, which some people on some of these groups make it sound. I have yet to accidentally summon a 9-foot snarling red-eyed demon. So if I haven't done it, I'm pretty sure that you're probably going to be fine. I've been doing this for like 20 years. I feel like I would have come across that before now. So, you know, so don't be super afraid. Be careful, of course. Don't light yourself on fire. And again, don't summon something. Don't be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to be into demon things because, and I'm just going to get all crazy. And no, that's not what I'm saying. But, you know, like regular things, the things that most of us do all the time, casting circle, creating simple rituals, honoring the moon, honoring the sun cycles, all of that. You know, don't be too afraid to kind of step off and do that, because there is no growth in the comfort zone. I know people say that a lot, but if you want to like sit and be a hermit, then you're never going to be like a successful Wall Street broker or whatever you want to do. So you do have to kind of get out of that comfort zone and be willing to be uncomfortable at the beginning. So if you do ritual and you do feel weird, like speaking out loud, and I certainly did, I almost the whole time I was a solitary, I said the words in my head, because when I spoke out loud, it was weird. It felt weird. It felt like it was going nowhere. Actually, funny story, the first time I actually spoke out as part of a ritual was a group ritual with like 15, 20 people that I ended up having to do, because the then high priestess of the coven of failure that I was in at the time, she wasn't there, so I had to like step in and take care of it. But you know, it is, so I know how weird it is to actually speak into the ether and hope that, you know, and feel like somebody's listening. But if that is uncomfortable for you, my suggestion to you is to practice saying your words. Like, so practice saying your circle casting words or your quarter calling words. Say them quiet, say it loud, whisper it. Like, just get used to saying things in the silence. We're so used to having conversations and filling the silence. Like, it's quiet right now. And like the first thing that I did when I came in here, I didn't do it, but I was thinking, oh, I should turn on the radio, or I should put something on, because we're so used to filling the silence that we're not okay with silence. It makes us uncomfortable. So if we embrace that silence and allow ourselves to speak our truth into that silence, it not only kind of magnifies what we're saying, you know, but it makes it sacred. And that's a whole nother, live. I want to say podcast live. So, but you know, just practice things, get used to things, get used to lighting candles, get used to like practice lighting your charcoal for your loose incense, because that is a talent all in its own. So that's pretty much it. That's all I really have to say. If you have any comments or questions, of course you can comment, and I'll come back and answer everything. And then I will see you next week. I think next week is manifestation. I think I'm going to talk about manifestation next week. But I hope you enjoyed this. I do have that recommended reading if you don't know what to read next. I also probably will drop a couple other links, things I talked about, types of witchery, and a couple things that I mentioned. So that's it. All right. I hope you guys all have a lovely evening. Bye.